Good evening. Thank you, Ross. All right, council after 6, we'll start this July 8th council meeting. We'll begin with the invocation by Councilmember Yance, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let's pray. Oh God, once again, we're grateful for this day that you give us. Lord, we pray that you give us tomorrow. Lord, we pray that you give us the courage and faith to go through each day, glorifying your kingdom. God, we ask that you be with us in our decisions. We make the decisions that glorify you and not man. Lord God, be with us and watch over us, be with our county and our state and our nation. We ask these things in Christ's name, amen.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First, we have approval of the agenda. Item D, an executive session. Purpose to discuss the settlement of a workers' compensation claim of an employee in the Public Works Department.
Motion to approve with the addition of second executive session. Second.
Carol, second by Mr. Rankin. Are there any other additions or deletions to the agenda? I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. All right. For next up, we got approval of the minutes from the June 24th Committee on Budget and Finance, the June 24th Committee meeting on Health and Emergency Services, as well as the June 24th regular session.
Mr. Chairman, motion to approve minutes for the Committee on Budget and Finance on June 24th. Also the minutes for the Committee on Health and Emergency Services on June 24th, as well as the regular session meeting on June 24th.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Rankin, second by Mr. Carroll. Are there any additions or deletions to the minutes? And then we'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. Next, we have reports to council. Do you have anything this evening?
None this time, Mr. Chair.
All right. Carol, would you like to report now or just wait till we get to the agenda item from your committee? We can wait. All right, so we will move into public comment. We have Ms. Robertson.
Yes. So hi, ladies and gentlemen, I am Mary Robertson, and I am from the Green Pond area, which is in District 1, part of it, and the rest of it is in Mr. Rankin's district. But I am in Mr. Yancey's district. So I had a question because I sent an email and copied Mr. Rankin. I sent an email to Mr. Yance back in June, and I've got no answers. So I have a question about the glass recycling that we do in Lawrence County. We have big bins at the, I don't know what y'all call them, transfer stations, dumps. And I don't know if there's one in every district, but we have one not far from me on Sweetbriar Road, and we have bins that everybody puts glass in. So there was a discussion on the Green Pond Facebook page that they were told, somebody was told that there wasn't anything done with the glass, that we didn't have any contract with anybody to come pick up the glass. And this was told to me about a year ago. So I called Stuart Jones and I asked him about it. And I said, don't tell me a fib because I voted for you and I had your sign in my yard. So I said, I can handle the truth. He made a few phone calls and called me back and he said, we don't have a contract anymore. It costs too much to get the people from whatever company it is, out of Atlanta to come and pick up the glass. And I said, why are we still doing it? Why do you offer it? They don't offer it in Greenville County. And he said, so we don't, the people in the county don't get out of the habit of doing it. And I said, okay, so are y'all working on a contract? Yep, we are. So that's my question. Where does it go? Do we have a contract? Is it really being picked up? Someone told me that, well, the attendant said it doesn't go anywhere, it just goes in the regular trash. And I said, but it's, the bins are sitting there. Well, we just want people to stay in the habit of doing it. Well, that upsets me because I am an avid recycler. And what I see is this is something else going under the ground. So my question is, where is it going? Do we have a contract? Is anybody working on a contract for our county? I don't know what other counties do, because I live in Lawrence County. And if we don't have a contract, why are we still doing it and where is it going? And I hope each one of y'all should have gotten my email, copy of my email that I had sent Mr. Johnson, Mr. Rankin. If anybody would get back to me, my email address is at the top. If you want my mailing address, that's on the sheet today. If anybody can get back to me with some type of answer and I can handle the truth, and I'll go on Facebook and I'll post it to the Green Pine residents, okay? Thank you.
So I don't mind, and give you an answer. I won't promise you it's the full answer. And as far as the recycling, what it's used for today is we take it to Twin Chimneys, which is where we take all the trash, and they use it as sole aggregate. So they take it and break it down into little pieces and use it as aggregate in the dump site is what they use it for. Just to tell you what, sole aggregate.
Sole aggregate.
That's what it's used for today.
Okay,
And I mean, I can't attest to what somebody said we do or don't do on contracts, but today that's what's currently happening to it.
okay. Are they working on a contract or county or, I don't know who to call. I would call somebody if I knew who to call.
Make sure you put your information, yep, I got your information on here. We'll look into it and find out,
Oh, you can.
as far as what we're currently doing, but I don't know that there's anybody here today that can answer your question. We'll get you an answer.
Well, at least it's not being wasted and using for something, but be nice if it can be recycled. Okay,
Ms. Robertson, as I expressed before the
Yes.
meeting, I will again apologize. I have a great response rate with my constituents. For some reason or another, I didn't get your email or somehow something happened where I never saw it in my inbox, but I do apologize.
Well, it was set right before July 4th, so a lot of y'all may have been on vacation and, you know, I mean, it's okay. But I came today to see if y'all could see what you can find out.
Yes, ma'am.
But I got that answer, but with a contract. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. Nancy Sullivan.
I didn't know y'all so calm, you're quick. But anyway, I'm here to talk about, my situation, in zone 1 at my home. And I know Old Sullivan Road, and, that's the street they named it after, Sullivan, is because, my father and my mother, my family, who grew up there. We're having a lot of development going. And actually, my first and my utmost concern is safety. The roads are very narrow, right directly in front of my house. Traffic have to stop to let one another by. It's a development going on, and I'm pretty sure y'all know about it. Thousands of houses are being put right directly in front of my house. Become a nuisance. I have to maybe stop 3 times to get to my house, just to let cars go by. School buses, they travel that road, they have to do the same. I just don't understand the the explosion of population that's happening. And, I mean, I don't look for you to explain it to me, but I look for something to be done about it because the area is not being patrolled. We have no speed limits, signs, no speed bumps, nothing. I live, my home, the house that I grew up in is directly in front of in front of the, like they said, the dumpsters. And what I hear is a plan that you guys are gonna put a park there. And the situation is already a disaster with all the explosion population going on there. My family, dread, I hate my next generation because I got the farm from my father. And I've been farming the farm. I've been farming since '89. And I still do. But it's even the city limits is just closing in on me now. Where that they are like want to annex the right at my property line. And the only enjoyment I'm getting out of it is when the kids stop by and look at my cow. It's not happy. It's unsafe. If you think it's safe, I'll give you my address and let you come to my house. And see what you think about it. I've been putting off coming to the meetings, and I didn't think it would get this bad. I talked to, I don't like to call names, but Mr. Wilson, about the road situation. And a couple more people, but the developers are unreal. They don't feel the pain that we're living in now. I don't know where you live, each and every one of you. I don't know where you live, but if this was to happen to you, you would be somewhat been out of shape like I am. And I think that the conversation would help some, but it's not fixing the heartache. It's not fixing the livability of what I used to live like. It was first a peach orchard in front of my house. Then it was a cotton field. And then it was a grain. And then the guy sold it. And then houses flew up. And they still flying I'm saying a house would go up maybe 2 or 3 houses per week at a minimum. I don't understand what I'm asking for. Maybe some patrolling in the area, some signs, road widening, and ReWalk is asking me for easement so that I can help this development. They want to put an easement on my property to help the development. I'm not asking for that. They coming to me. And then you guys want to put a park in front of my house. No. Look out for trying to look out for the safety and the benefits of my family. I don't know if I have enough time. The point that I was saying, okay, maybe I need to call Channel 1 News so let somebody know about this. But then again, I said, well, I don't think that might answer the problem. But now I'm here. Okay. And maybe somebody can hear me here. And I don't know who I need to give my number to. I give all y'all my address if you want to come visit. You know, I'll let you come visit my house, and that way you'll see the situation. That's the best way I can explain it. Thanks for your time.
Sure. Ms. Garrison.
We've got one already. I did, I don't know what's talking to me. So of course, Nancy Garrison Fountain Inn, and I want to talk with y'all a little bit about what we experienced over the fourth. I did this in hopes that maybe that y'all could consider this or something like this. Because of the fact of what we endure. Now, the development does have, and through the HOA, same development as Mr. Sullivan was speaking about. It does have, and as it builds out, it's coming closer to our farm. There's probably, I'm just guesstimating, maybe 300 houses so far built, you know, but this is the one that's gonna end up being 941 homes and 131 townhomes. So, as it's, you know, we'll build out our way, it'll get closer and closer to our farm. So there is in their HOA CCRs, the prohibition of fireworks. But unfortunately, you know, as Maura found out that the developer, it was an oversight and they didn't put it in there till like a day or so before the 4th this year. So, but when the fireworks started on the 4th, you know, I knew there was the prohibition that weren't supposed to be doing them. It's in their HOA, and they all sign that when they move into these developments. And so I rode over to see where it was coming from, to make sure I knew where it was coming from, so I could contact the HOA. So as I did so, there was one gentleman walking back up the road, and I guess he'd already spoke to these people, him being a person in the neighborhood, saying they weren't supposed to be doing it. A woman starts following him. I stopped just to ask him where it was coming from, and he wouldn't even hardly say anything, just kind of done his eyes, and she starts coming up, she's cussing and carrying on at him, then threatens me and cusses at me about even saying that it's in the HOA, she wasn't supposed to be shooting off fireworks, and so I just leave. So I did call the sheriff's department about the situation, and my understanding, and the officer did call me back later on, they told me that the HOA has control over it, that we don't have anything that can really be done about this situation as far as the HOA has to handle it. But the way the HOA works, it can't do anything in the moment. I actually got an email back from the HOA today, and she replied back to me that when they're not in office, that I should call the police department. So I'm like, something's gotta happen that we can get to be able to call our sheriff's department, because the HOA is, I guess, can't help in the moment. And when I tell you after dark, a free-for-all went off over there, you had people in the back of trucks going to the park that was undeveloped, shooting them off. You had them up all around the pool and open space area, shooting them off. It was a massive free-for-all. So, not getting a whole lot from the HOA other than, you know, they will send out violations as to, you know, to ones they know of, but I don't know how you know who was doing what when they're out in the field where they're not supposed to be and everywhere else. So that's why I come tonight to ask you to consider something like this. You know, something like it, as it gets deeper in there, it protects us with our farm animals. And Ms. Riddle, I think, is going to speak after me, simply because, and it would give you a good idea of why we feel this way. And then I also did speak to Sheriff Reynolds about it, and he was very nice, and he said, yes, if we had more, that would help them. So I was just wanted to give that to y'all for your consideration and see if we could come up with something to help protect us in our farms because of these large developments coming up like this.
What time was that? You know? Or what time was the craziness going on?
Well, it was right before dark when I went over there. But they went on, and this is something else that Sheriff Reynolds said too, something about the noise, when we talk later, something about the noise ordinance, because it went all the way to 10:30, 11 o'clock.
Goes after 9, he has teeth to deal with it,
Okay,
it's after 9 o'clock,
okay, Okay.
9 to 7, I believe. And I like your penalties a little better, to be honest, but I think our current ones, first offense is like 100 to 530 days in jail, or up to 30 days in jail. And second, 750 to 1,000 and up to 30 days in jail, I believe. And third is at the judge's discretion.
right,
And we have some of this, now the protection of the animal housing facility would be extra, but as far as what we have on the books where something could be done, anything after 9 PM could have been dealt with.
okay. Yeah, and I can't remember when I got the call back. I'd have to try to look back and see, but I was just told the HOA was supposed to, and they're probably trying to figure all this stuff out too, as far as that goes. So, but like I said, something like that, I did like the portion of, if it's 1,500 feet away, that they have to get permission from the landowner, say somebody could have their horses up the barn, maybe somebody could do that, celebrate or whatever. Not against the 4th of July, I love it, just like, and I know it's independence and everything else, but we have a right to try to protect our animals. And like I said, Miss Riddle's gonna share something to help you understand why we're so concerned, especially as it continues to build out. Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Ms. Riss.
So I'm kind of diagonally across from Nancy, and we have a boarding farm and board horses. And on the night of the 4th of July, I had this family that come every day from about 6 to 9 or 9:30, as long as weather permits. And they always check their horses, and they'll, kind of keep an eye on everything while they're there at dusk. And she had called and said there were some fireworks going and horses were running, but they were okay. So, we left it at that. Well, they check their horse, they look their horse over every day, check on it. And everything was fine. That was around probably 8:30 or 9. The next day, July 5th, when they go to check the horse, it had burn marks, probably from falling, how when your bottle rockets or whatever go up, and then you hear the little embers falling. And they're obvious. I have a picture. I'm gonna let you look at it. I'm gonna hold this up so you can kind of figure out, it's on the shoulder of the horse. This is the horse's mane braided, and all these little black spots are burn marks. And then there's also a picture of the type of bottle rocket that we found in the pasture. So, it's our business. So now we've got a horse that's been injured. And most of our boarders are women, and it's all of us. And the next time there are fireworks, they're gonna want me down there till midnight, making sure everybody's good. But the danger to the animals are real, not only from running and getting injured, because they don't, just like people's dogs run away, trying to find a safe place. So horses do the same thing. And we did have horses that were running and that were fearful. And it's good to hear that you have things in place. But, through Nancy's calls and stuff, there was no follow through. So things in place with no follow through don't help us. So I just wanted to show the pictures that it is a real danger. I'm not as close to the development as she is. And this happens to be the only horse that we've seen. There are 2 more horses in that pasture. And it's only on one side, but the next night when they went up there, the horse wouldn't even come out of the hall of the barn. So she's not a nervous horse. They're like anything else. You have nervous animals and some that are pretty calm. She is not a nervous horse. It's a kid's horse. She takes her everywhere, does everything with her, and she didn't even want to come out from the barn. So, and she always knows they come with treats, so she usually meets them at the gate. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Riddle. Next, we have Ms. Vaughn.
I want y'all to be able to see me this time. Thank you. I'm here because
Chairman Patterson asked me to be here because I have some concerns about the proposed comprehensive plan. And I made a comment on Facebook that I did have those questions. I think I figured things out, but I didn't know if you wanted me to speak now or if you were gonna bring it up.
I was going to mention it later. You can go ahead and talk about your concerns and the library stand, or excuse me, museum stance and everything now, if you like. You can talk about library too, if you like.
Get to go there as often as I would like to. My name is Debbie Bond, and I am on the board of directors at this moment with the Lawrence County Museum, and I volunteer. I've been there now for years. And of course, if I see museum listed somewhere, my ears and eyes go up, and I want to make sure that what we've done and what we're working on at our Lawrence County Museum is protected. And I think I figured some things out about this comprehensive plan. So first of all, it's really hard to find. I've gone on the website several times and I followed down through different little pathways, but the link I think I found the right one was one that was put in the editorial of the Clinton Chronicle. And I
Hold on,
think-
please, sir.
Okay.
Will you check the link on the homepage of the website? It's on the homepage. I'll make sure it goes to the right place.
I couldn't find it when I looked today, it wasn't there. I mean, I
There,
had
hold on,
somebody-
at 1 o'clock this morning. There, 1 o'clock.
I don't know, but I can show you online. But I looked, and also I went to the planning commission, but so it's not that I went, but I kept trying, and I finally went back to the link, and even when I did find it, there was a whole list, I'm talking about under the culture section, culture of our county. And there was a whole listing of Revolutionary War sites and historic sites that I couldn't find this last time, but basically, in this version that I first saw, I started reading, and the narrative, it talks about using the Lawrence County Arts Council as somebody to ask for information. There's not an arts council, as far as I know, and I don't think there's been one for the 20 years I've moved, since I've moved back to Lawrence County. It's mentioned several times here. And also in another part of the narrative, it says that we have 2 museums, one in Gray Court and later, that we have Arts Alive, and there's no Arts Alive. We have no library community concerts, no orchestra concerts for the school children. It mentions the town hall just happened in Lawrence. And it also, and the part that really bothered me, and see, I didn't, at first I went to the goals and implementation section. And I don't, when people say this is gonna be a 10-year plan that the county's gonna follow and it's gonna guide everything that happens. I don't know that it's not going to. I think it would, and so a couple of things that just happened. And at the Lawrence County Museum, we had a designer to come visit us, and he said that there was going to be a museum, historical exhibit area in the old courthouse. And he asked if he'd come to visit before and got bought all the books, all the Discover Lawrence County books and that kind of thing, which was, we're happy to get that information out. But then the second time he came, he told us what he was doing, and he's been a delightful man. And I think hopefully we'll be able to get him to help us with some of our Revolutionary War exhibits and different things, because he is a museum designer. And so, but he said, does it bother you that we're doing this? And we said, no, we like to know what's going on in the, I don't think we're going to be any competition with that. I think it's fantastic. Anytime we can share our history here in Lawrence County, and people send people from there to us and vice versa. But that happened, and then we were not funded at the level that we, or near the, the level that we have been in the past. So, with the budget, we we're going to be applying for the grant, but I'm sure it's a lot less. And at that point, we have a bare bones budget, so a lot of volunteers. And the $50,000 that the county has been generous of taxpayer money, and the county has been generous enough to give us, give the museum in the past year, and it was 40,000 2 years before that, for our operating budget. It's very appreciated, but it's 20% of our operating budget, and the rest is either donations, memberships. We do have rentals, grants, you know, everywhere we can, and then also people put things in the donation bucket. Whatever, we do sell books and things like that, so that's a pretty big chunk to make up, and we do fundraisers too. We're really, really busy, and we have to, they take a lot of time, but we don't do that, but say like about 80% of the budget is made up like that, so that's a big chunk. So that happened. Bill Donahue, they come talking about more museums, and I didn't, you know, at this point, I know there, you know, people have said, they come in and say, what's happening at the old courthouse? And, you know, really, there's not been a whole lot of information put out about what is happening. I know some people know, but I guess the general public, and I did look back, and I know John Kane and the architects that y'all brought in, there were, I looked a little bit, and there was a narrative about how the old courthouse would have like an event center on the second floor, I believe, or I'm not sure. And that, you know, for different events, and be set up like that, and then and in that narrative, it said something about a museum that I didn't know where to look, and I found that. So there were two things that happened, and then when I read in this comprehensive plan that on the goals and implementation section, county council were not listed in the first part where it says work with the South Carolina Department of Archives and History to research, catalog, and document sites, and work with the local historical societies, Great Fort Point Owings Historical Society, Rosemont Preservation Society, and the Lawrence County Genealogical Society. And then there's a section about recreation, and then the next part it says that the county council and the arts council should be involved in the study of funding of a centralized art and student center for Lawrence County that could include a museum, theater, and meeting space. And it does say should, could, and should, and would, and maybe, and but then it said that the accountable agencies are the arts council, which there is not one, and the county council, and the time frame is short term. But what I think I figured out at this point is that this was cut and pasted from years ago, and it's the same thing that might have been in that. So I just don't think, you know, it was very concerning to me. I was going, oh gosh, are they going to fund another museum that our museum will be involved in? And so, I mean, I have real concern about it. And so I don't know if I explain myself or, but you know, it seemed like I was spreading bad information, but I was just asking questions, that I had questions, and I knew that there was going to be a public hearing next week, and that's what I was going to go see about, you know, just see what's going to happen. And so, but Chairman Patterson invited me to come today to maybe make me feel better. I don't know. So.
And I didn't cut you off. I was gonna say, anybody that wants to give recommendations, we'll gladly look at them. This is a thick document, not too bad. And the council holding over, I know it's been through several bodies already, and a lot of time and effort's been put into it, but I mean, I've used blue ink instead of red, so it didn't look like a murder taking place on my paperwork. But there are lots of places that need updating, even some I mentioned to you specifically about the museum, where I feel that y'all should be added and recommended. And with that already, I'd love to continue to ease your stress that the county, let me back up. I'm 1 vote of 7. I have no desire to see the county compete with the current museum, and don't believe we care. I will concur with that statement. But I don't think any of us desire to own and operate museum when we have such a good one. Now, if we didn't have a good one, then we might be having a different conversation, but like I've expressed before, we're blessed with a great one that does a lot for our community. And if the architect from the courthouse gave y'all worry, I guess I'll apologize on his behalf. There's a visitor center that has a history element to it. But there's, Yeah.
And we are, I mean, he's delightful and we want to work together.
he seemed, I've met him once, he seemed quite bright, and I think he's gonna do a great job with outlaying that history of Orange County. In the visitor center, which will be open to the public, 9 to 5 during the day. For those in town that might want to stroll in, or those that visiting out of town to be able to learn a little bit about Lawrence and hopefully strolling over to the museum after that and learn even more about our history. So but there's no current plans, and I'll foresee any in the future, or at least the immediate future.
And I hope this will change, this plan will change because, you know, even though it might get thrown in a drawer and never looked at again, what if somebody pulls it out and says, well, they didn't think our Orange County Museum was good enough for anybody to consult about anything, because we might not be here, you know, when that happens. So, but I want to tell y'all that, you know, we have a lot of county visitors, local area visitors, but the day after we had the budget hearing here, I got back to the museum and there have been 5 couples from 5 different states who came to our museum. We've had 2,400 visitors, which is more than double than the visitors we had last year. There was from 70 different towns and cities in South Carolina, 15 different states. Last year we had 30 states that was after the whole year. So we are bringing people here, and I know people are just here and then they walk in, but there are people who stop on their way to the mountains from Hilton Head, and they come in. We ask them, you know, oh no, we've heard about your museum. So, and it's going to get bigger and better in the next 2 years. We've got some build up coming for the Revolutionary War anniversary, and we're going to see fantastic things. But I appreciate it. I appreciate any support you can give us, because, you know, like I said, we're bare bones, and we're, you know, we've been blessed to have a reserve, but I'm glad that we do, so we don't run out of money. And we try to really, so we need to spend our whole reserve on the book. A lot of old buildings, and I guess y'all understand all this, but I thank y'all for listening to me, and I hope they're not peace. And thank y'all for listening.
Well, hopefully you'll be happy with the edits that we make, and if you have more suggestions on where we could plug the museum and more, please let us know.
I will. If I can get a copy of the real one, I can write it up.
We will get one to you.
Okay, thank
You'll get one tomorrow. And as far as comp plan, we'll take this time as a reminder, we have a meeting on the 18th, is that right, next Thursday? We have a meeting dedicated. We felt that this was important enough not to vary in a regular council agenda. And we are not taking any action that night, it's pure discussion and public hearing. So council can discuss, and we'll hear from the public on that evening. And I look forward to those deliberations, and there'll probably be a few meetings as we look through this before we move on to the second reading. So I do thank all the hard work that's gone into it thus far, and look forward to more to come. Next, we will move into old business. Are there any submissions this evening for boards, committees, or commissions? Hearing none, we'll move into new business. It's first reading for ordinance 968, Project Onward. I'll turn the floor over right a second to Mr. Carroll and allow him to give his committee report. I appreciate you taking the reins on that this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did have a committee as a whole meeting at 5 o'clock to discuss one item, which was Project Onward, an SSRC, a special source revenue credit that was being discussed for a real estate development project for townhomes on the Watts Mill site. The original, we had a committee meeting before that we voted on our minutes, and in that committee meeting, we recommended it go to another committee meeting as a whole to ask a few more questions. So with that, we took information, we took no action, but we asked some questions about the SSRC itself and the timeline and the expectations. And so those at the committee meeting heard what they needed to hear from the developer. I can give you specifics if you need, but we'll have those in the minutes of the previous meeting. It is will be a benefit to the developer to be able to do this project. That should be an investment in the Wattsville community, in Lawrence County, positive opportunity for rental housing in the area that doesn't exist today. There were some concerns about impacts to the school district, and they had concerns in a previous meeting, and we did discuss that the county council itself would determine the percentage of funds that the school district and others would receive from the taxes that will be received. It seems to be a positive project. Everybody seemed interested in moving forward with the project. We just have to decide what level, if any, of SSRC credits we are going to provide for the progression of the project. So that's basically high level. We didn't take any action.
Okay. If I recall, at the previous meeting, Mr. Franklin made the motion to have first reading of this meeting, which is why it was moved to today. So I can open the floor for motion for first reading. We can discuss those figures. We can discuss those figures after we have it on the table, whatever council first.
I would just recommend that if we're going to have a substantive discussion on actual figures, that we have a motion and a second for first reading.
All right. I'll open the floor for first reading on ordinance 968.
Just state that again.
My suggestion was that we would present it for, make a motion to approve on first reading before we discuss specifics of the credit. And I'll make a motion.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Carroll, second by,
For purposes, Mr. Chairman, of putting it on for to flesh out some of those other questions. For that purpose, I'll make a second.
all right, we have a motion on the table and a second for discussion. Floor open for discussion. So and I apologize, council, on this earlier committee meeting. The questions I would have had at that meeting, and if y'all discussed them, y'all can answer them. If not, we can debate them now. My main concern is the school district, obviously. This project, y'all heard enough about it now, but it'll lie within the city limits of Lawrence. So the impact, the main impact immediate to Lawrence County would be our EMS services. The city would be responsible for the fire and police, and they're well aware of that. They were at that last committee meeting. So then the next thing is the schools, because with homes, we won't say that they'll all be full of children, but I imagine a lot of them will. And those, I imagine, are zoned for 4. And then, middle school, probably Lawrence Middle, if I had to guess. Probably where they would go from there. So then the high school, of course, or Sanders. Or Sanders, depending on the lines, but one of those two. So the schools would see the most immediate impact. They would also see some immediate revenue from the state based on pupil count. So there's a give and a take there, but I do want council, as we go through this, to be cognizant that the decisions we make do affect 2 other entities in our county, and we would like to be good neighbors to those folks and make sure we're taking care of everybody. I know there were figures discussed at the first meeting. There a figure that we were talking about earlier today.
So, Mr. Chairman, we did not discuss as a council figure. What we did discuss was that the aggregate was 65% over the life of the credit. It was built in, that it's front loaded for the first 3 years. 100%, and then the next 3 was, it's in the packet, but it's staircase down to get an aggregate of 65% overall.
All right. And then, of course, to do this and to do those SSRCs, we have to place this in a Orange County park. I believe I read in here that it mentioned the Octagon at one point. However, back to the school discussion, I think it would be appropriate to create a new park specifically for this type of investment. And I would personally like to see that weighted heavy towards the school districts, given that they are the ones most impacted by the increase in population. That would be a whole nother ordinance that draft and get us. But I do think the only other option, in my opinion, would be to go with the Sterilite Park, which is has a disbursement that is identical to your personal tax bill. That would be the next fairest option, in my opinion. But I think that if we did a new park that was specific to a project of this nature, we want to set some parameters on what is required to get in there. I think this project's, I've seen numbers varying from 30 to 50 million. I think we set a floor of some level, so if we have projects in the future, they will desire to go this route, they'd be able to look and consider something similar, but they would have to meet certain levels to get there. Once again, just something for the discussion as we go through this. It's something we've never done before in Lawrence, that is done elsewhere. But we've never encountered it. I guess we should be thankful we have a developer that's interested in spending that kind of money in Lawrence County on a housing project in a needed area. Watts Mill has been not the town, but the site, the physical Watts Mill site has been a rundown parcel for a long time. With mills closing, and the folks came in and tore the mill down and did nothing with the property, and it's just been an eyesore. So the fact that somebody wants to take that rough area of the mill site and develop it into something beautiful, I think is a positive, and we should give this heavy consideration. Gladly take a recommendation, or if anybody has any more questions, let's see.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
I think it might be appropriate for us to vote on this tonight as first reading, and we vote on first reading on PLOs by name only. I would like to hear directly back from the school district. I'd like for them to, be aware of the numbers that we're looking at and have them respond as to what their concerns are. And I'd like to hear directly from them as you so correctly point out that is a point of contention. But, the mill village is a feature of the South, and that you had a mill and you had people's houses that were close enough to walk to it. The mill's not there anymore. And that, it's the same thing in Joanna and Lockhart and Pacolet and Glendale and Converse and Clinton and Lydia. And if this were in my district, I'd be all over it. I would love to see this happen in the middle of Joanna. I mean, I think everybody in Joanna would like to see that happen. We'd like to see it happen at the Clinton Mill. So it's a good opportunity for us to turn that circumstance around, and that talking about the school district funding and so forth, that I've had an opportunity to look at the school district funding formulas, and it's almost 2 pages of Excel lines of this much per student from this source times this many dollars and so forth. There are 50 lines of code, that go into the formula there. And this would be one of those. It may be one of the larger ones, but it is not determinative. But I would like to hear directly from the school district so that they don't talk about it after we do it. And I'd like to hear about it in advance. But I think it would be appropriate to vote on this first reading as if it were a name only circumstance, to put the process in motion and try to hear from the concerned parties about it.
I will say that at our first committee meeting, the mayor of Lawrence and the superintendent of District 55 were there and did speak. on the first meeting, but they'll certainly have more input going forward, but they were at the table.
And they do have the numbers and have been looking at it, but I think hearing from them directly is a very reasonable request.
I just had to, went heavily on the impact on the schools, because I know presently, they tried to do a referendum in this area of 55, and knowing that the impact is that the schools are not functioning the way they should be functioning right now. And when you put strain on something without making sure you making some plans on ensuring that everybody have the proper education that they need to have, it's something that's very important. I think it's a good thing to do, but I want to make sure that everybody is on the same page, the same sheet of music, without things changing within the ordinance. That's my main thing, because I know over a period of time, especially with having monies up front, especially when you start having monies up front, you got to be very careful, to make sure that you're budgeting and making sure that you meet your obligations, and everybody is willing to make the sacrifices and the commitments that need. We can do that and work collaboratively together. It would be a grand thing to do, but we also knowing that there will be some changes, like already said that they want to annex it to the city and several things like that that will affect the people who are living in those particular homes too. So not paying city taxes, county taxes, and paying both taxes. And several other things going on that you need to make sure that everybody's in a comfortable position to move on.
And just for clarification, if I recall, when the mayor spoke at the last meeting, it's only that property, or the properties that they own. I think they do own a few other parcels, but only the properties that they own are going to be annexed, so there won't be any other adverse effect to the current residents, because we would not want that either. I do agree with that statement. So Mr. Curley's recommendation is that we pull this back to a title only approval.
No, I think we can go, I mean, it has the same effect. I mean, whatever the final reading is what it is, but I'm just saying that it's not jumping the gun to go ahead and vote on it in its current form and allow continued investigation. That's what the purpose of 3 readings is. There's 3 readings and a public hearing, so we'll have those chances. So I'm saying that it's appropriate to vote on the motion as it's presented tonight, in my judgment, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Is there any other discussion? All right. Our call for a vote, I do want to thank her for coming this evening. She represents the project, and I know y'all been working hard with many folks, and y'all already done some remediation work, I know, on the property. We appreciate your investment into the county and look forward to further discussions on this possibility. So that being said, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor of approving on first reading, please raise your right hand. 7-0. All right. We will, Mr. Will work with the school district, and I'll probably invite the city council woman step in from the city, but we'll invite the city council and the mayor back next time too, to speak to the entirety of the full council and give their opinions or answer any questions should there be any. That concludes new business. Move into county council comments. I'll start on right, Ms. Clark.
No comments at this.
All right, Mr. Crowe.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You might have heard that there was an election last week. And I'd like to make a couple of observations, particularly one. I would like, Mr. Chairman, for you to call a meeting of the EMS Emergency Services Committee, and for the purpose of discussing the immediate future of ambulances and crash vehicles in, particularly in my district, would be what would that be, the north and the east of Highway 72. I would like very much for you to do that so we can have a chance to sit down and lay out all the pieces of that. And see how they come back together. I realize there are a lot of moving parts. I realize the city of Clinton and the city of Cross Hill have, dumped their post sites, but we've got to find a solution for it in the long run and in the short run. On a completely different subject, Mr. Chairman, I'm now completing my 10th year on county council, 6 at one time and 4 at another. And I have never nominated somebody for the Henry Lawrence Award. And I didn't know Henry Lawrence. He wasn't a friend of mine. And that there's not anybody that I want to call up and say, you ought to be more like Henry Lawrence in the way that you live. That's not a standard that I understand. And that I think it's appropriate and time for us to change the name of our highest civilian award. I think that it ought to be more congruent with our current and future than it is with something that's so distant in the past. And I would like you, Mr. Chairman, if you would consider appointing a committee to find a way to modernize that award and make it possible. I'm not even sure how many of them have been awarded, in the last 4 years. Every now and then it used to happen, and it's happened less and less frequently. And in my judgment, part of it is due to the same feeling that I'm expressing to you now, that the council members just say, I just don't identify with that award, don't identify with what that means, and it's not representative of who we are today or what we want to be in the future, and that we need to modernize that award. And there are people out there who are worthy of it. I mean, I've probably got a list of 10 or 12 of them that I'd like to give, even in my final months in office. So two requests, Mr. Chairman, that you allow me to bring concerns before the EMS committee, and that you would consider assigning a committee to modernize the highest award that the council gives for our current circumstance and our future.
Right. Congratulations, Mr. Tribble, on your appointment to the chairmanship of the Committee on. Your cohorts will be, and call it Mr. Rankin. And I will ask that you get with the clerk of council and work out a time that's best for y'all to meet.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You're welcome. And then also I'll ask that Mr. Carroll do the same for the EMS, or for the Emergency Services Committee, to have the EMS discussions. All right, Mr. Rankin.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for everyone that came out. I trust you all had a safe July 4th weekend. I certainly enjoyed mine. And really, for me, I've been thinking a lot about our freedom as a country and where we're headed as a country, but also just patriotism in general. July 4th is very special, and I know there's a lot of fireworks, a lot of partying, but a lot of us forget why. What is the core reason why we're celebrating July 4th? And that is our country, 1776, breaking free from British rule and declaring our independence as a country. And patriotism is kind of a dying thing in our country in 2024 in many aspects. Our children are not being taught what it really means to be an American. And so I just wanted to read a quote from my favorite president, Ronald Reagan. I know you guys have probably heard this before, maybe not. But it is a very powerful quote that resonates with me, and I really think about this every 4th of July. So he said, quote, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Or one day we will spend our sunset years telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States, where men were free." That's powerful. And it is very true. It only takes one generation to forget. And so it's up to all of us here in this room, to spend time with our grandkids and our kids and making sure that they are instilled with American patriotism. Because if we don't know our roots, we won't know where we are going in the future. So I just want to remind everyone of that quote. It is one of my favorites. And thank you, Mr. Chairman, for that.
Ms. Bryant. Mr. Youngs.
Yes, sir, I want to talk about, just for a minute, the ordinance that Ms. Garrison has proposed about these fireworks. I think she told you she wasn't trying to be nosy, she was protecting her property, she got threatened. She got cussed out like she was a stray dog running across the property or something. That's not right, and this person supposedly lived there. It's a mess up there in that area if you hadn't been. I mean, it's a mess. These, developers got in under the wire of our new ordinances. It's 1,000+ houses, and what you need to think about, you got 1,000 houses and everybody shooting firecrackers. And those explosives, and these people got a right to protect their animals and their livestock. The homeowners association, like you said, at the present time, they're not gonna do any good. I'd really like to see the sheriff's department, on these holidays when these fireworks are gonna be going on, I'd like to see them. They'll just be hard nosed about it. The things I like best on 5 and 6, where it gives certain setbacks if you're gonna have to shoot them. If the homeowners association can designate, and developers can designate a place, if you wanna shoot them, that's where you shoot them, instead of just all over the place. I know these folks, I know, I've got a horse. They raise horses and they work horses, and that's their living. And if you don't know anything about a horse, they're like 1,000-pound chihuahua. They'll kill yourself trying to get away from something. I would like to see us act fast and act hard on this. And the other things involved too, about the roads. Mr. Sullivan's there yet? Sir. I know it. Exactly what he's talking about. You did. And, Mr. Chairman, I guess as far as the road thing, you'd have to go to our transportation committee with me. Or
Potentially, I'm gonna look up real quick to see. Sorry, you can tell me, Sullivan, is it the one, if you're on the main road, is that the branch off, or is it the crossroad by the dump?
Happy Valley is a branch off.
Okay,
Southern Road crossing. It's at the dumpster.
okay. That is I do believe that is a county road, and we can work with him to talk with CTC about.
Four-way interstate, going there, which direction, one of the roads he's talking about goes in front of his house.
Right.
It's just a little back T trail. And,
I do know Happy Valley is getting widened, but I don't believe Sullivan's was on that list, but we can have a discussion with CTC.
and I would like to do this ordinance, for these fireworks. And a question that I do ask, do we have a fire marshal?
Yes, sir.
We do have a fire marshal that can call can stop fire, because it was real dry 4th of July when all this was going on. And I don't know if the school district gonna say no fireworks. I mean, I hate it.
I'll let you take that one.
Generally, the enforcement of those ordinances would be within the law enforcement capabilities that the sheriff is delegated through our ordinance. If it's a life safety issue, that's generally when the fire marshal would be involved with the analysis of the life safety issue. But generally, as it relates to the enforcement of this particular ordinance, as it is on the books today, that would fall probably within the purview of the sheriff. Now, if we were to explore a new ordinance, we could look at some other avenues, but as it sits today, it probably be within law enforcement.
I think just to follow up on this against question,
So
I think it's
can
required.
we make some kind of move on this?
I want to get your question answered first, 'cause I'm curious.
Okay.
I think what he was also asking is if we've had a dry spell is there anybody in the county, whether that be council or fire marshal or the sheriff, could blanket ban fireworks for the entire county?
That's something I would have to research and get back with you on. I just don't know. And that could be a forestry call. It could be within our purview of the county, but I'd hate to give you the answer without researching.
To answer your next question, Mr. Johns, if we'd have added it at the beginning, we could have gotten something done tonight. However, I think we can work with the county attorney to get it drafted in, official form, get us an ordinance number, and it'll be on the next meeting.
That's right.
Sam?
We don't have a lot of concerns this evening. But I'm just thinking about our community as a whole. It's summer and it is hot, we got to the hundreds. But during the end of the school season, two of our community baseball team was really in the running for whatever their classes are, but I can't remember all these classes for PC and the class for Lawrence High. So we always acknowledge when the students or either anyone in the community will put forth their effort and commitment, and we always like to make sure we acknowledge the work that they have done. And so I want to make sure that when school get back in, we make sure we rally Lawrence High 55 for their participation in the what kind of series was that?
It was state playoffs.
State playoff, and also for Presbyterian College, they got in just one game and made it. And I think the coaches maybe on both of those teams was the coach of the year. And so I like to make sure that they put forth a lot of effort to make that happen for that team. So they should be acknowledged for the work that they do. So I'm hoping that we can do something for them when school enters again. So we want to make sure they know that we've been overlooking.
We'll look into that and get those. And even more exciting, not only have our collegiate and high school teams done well, but our little league teams, our 8 and under, went to the first round of playoffs, and our 10 and unders made it to, they were runner up in the region and made it to state playoffs as well. They did not succeed, unfortunately, but even our little ones made it. So we have, what that tells me is we have a really strong baseball crowd and baseball talent here in Lawrence County. Hopefully those youngins will grow up and we'll get to continue to see the high school and collegiate levels succeed. Mr. Carroll.
Thanks, sir. So we have a great opportunity before us in Lawrence County with the investment that's coming into Lawrence County, the growth, the reinvigorated portions of our county. And so with that, there will be growing pains and there'll be public concern. And I know that several people have reached out to me in the past, and I try to be responsive, even if I don't give you the answer you want, that I do respond. But we've had a lot of questions that are on social media and things like that, that I really feel like we could get you an answer if you just ask us or ask me. I don't participate in talking to you on social media. That's not what I'm going to do. That's not where I go. But if you reach out to me and my contact stuff's available, I'll get you an answer. But I'm not going to debate on social media. But I saw a lot of questions about the project that we're talking about with the development in Watts Mill area. We've been transparent. We've had meetings and I'll give answers, but it just seems like it's portrayed as some nefarious thing or under the cover of darkness. And it's not. It's some misinformation out there that I'd love to give the correct information if people want to reach out specifically to us. We're your representatives for your area and can get the right answer. I would just caution people when you get information wherever you consume it. If you have an opportunity to go and get an answer from the people who affect the change, come get it. I mean, ask and I'll certainly give you what I know. It may not always be right, but I'll give you an answer and we'll figure it out. But I would just encourage us as we go together as citizens of Lawrence County to help move things forward. That if you have a question or you're confused or something seems wrong, just reach out and ask, and we'll certainly respond to that.
Mr. Carroll. I like those comments, and then also say, I thank Ms. Garrison for bringing forward a draft ordinance. And I think there's some great things in it, especially the shooting fireworks near the animals. I think that's a big deal. I grew up on a farm and have to go to the far side to shoot, just keep it away from the horses. But not everybody has that ability. And as far as them being shut off in a subdivision, my sister-in-law and her family actually had to evacuate their house. They were 2 doors down from the fire in Woodruff. And I'm sure most people saw from kids at 2 a.m. shooting bottle rockets over people's houses, which is absolutely ridiculous. So I think that this is well timed. I would like to go ahead and be clear that I don't think anyone up here is anti-fireworks and anti-celebration by any stretch of the imagination. However, we do have a responsibility to protect our homeowners and our animals in this community. And 3 things besides that, right? The comp plan, we're working on that. I already mentioned earlier that we have the 18th meeting. And I hope to get some good input there. Also, like Mr. Carroll said, if anybody's got a question on it, reach out to council. It's not perfect. It has been through a lot of drafts and a lot of input from different people. And we had a lot of public input sessions. And then I believe Planning Commission held 2 meetings on it at the Ridge to get feedback and make some adjustments. And I expect this council to get feedback and give our feedback and make some adjustments. One, like we talked about earlier with the museum, there's multiple areas that they need to be included, and it's a vast resource. And even Ms. Vaughn mentioned some outside resources that can help us with studies in this town to go in addition with the museum. And I appreciate those recommendations and look forward to incorporating them with it. 2 other things. I was approached eating dinner the other night by a local business owner with some concerns that his neighbors were conducting business in a residential area, which is not illegal by any stretch of the imagination. However, he was frustrated that their tax burden was quite lower than his because he was open and honest about his business practices and others weren't. I'd like to ask the county administrator or with our assessor on seeing what the possibility is to develop a process. And of course, we can rely heavily too on our assistant administrator. I know she spent some time in the assessor's office in the past in another county. But it seems there's a way that we can have a process. If somebody has a concern, they can report it to the assessor's office, whether that be walk in with a piece of paper or submit a form online or whatever that looks like. I would like us to go down that path and bring that back to council in the appropriate time in the future. Another task I'd like to have you look into tonight is doubling our homestead exemption for senior citizens. It's something that's been mentioned before and at different times, but I think that we should be proactive in looking at that from a county level and not waiting on the state to do something about it. The state did take a look at it this past year, and it went to committee like a lot of things do in Columbia and never came out. But I think that's something we could do at a local level. Right, currently the homestead exemption is 50,000 on your first assessed value. I'm very curious about if we double that, what that impact looks like to our citizens and how that would benefit the taxpayers in Lawrence County. So if you could, once again, work with the assessor or the auditor's office, whichever one's appropriate, give us some numbers and at the appropriate time, bring that back to council for review. Yes, sir. We'll get that to you. All right. That's all I have for this evening. We do have a couple matters for executive session. First matter is for discussing the employment and compensation county administrator. Second is for the discussion of the settlement of a discussion of the settlement of a works compensation claim of an employee in the Public Works Department. Do I have a motion to enter into executive session for those 2 specific reasons? Motion by Mr. Carroll, second by Mr. Rank. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right. 7-0. Time is 7:16. We'll enter an executive session at 7:25. All right, time is now 8:31. Call this county council meeting back into open session. Council meeting met in executive session, to discuss, any employment and compensation for the county administrator, as well as discussion on a workers' comp claim for an employee in the public works department. No action was taken in executive session, but I will open the floor now if any motions are needed to be made.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we settle a claim that's authorized by the Workman Compensation Council for the Department of Public Works.
We have a motion to authorize the county attorney to finalize the claim, advisory of our workers' compensation council, in the public works department.
Second.
Second by Mr. Rankin. Or Ms. Clark. Motion by Ms. Anderson, second by Ms. Clark. Is there any further discussion? And I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0. Are there any other motions that need to be made?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we authorize our county attorney to update the county administrator's contract to be presented and voted on at the next council meeting.
Have a motion, Mr. Carroll,
Second.
second by Mr. Rankin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. Motion passes 7-0. There's no other business. I'll call for a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mr. Carroll. Second by Ms. Clark. And y'all hang out here, but I'm gonna hang out. All those in favor, please raise your right hand. 7-0.
That's always fun.
Say.
Good night, sir.